Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to use VLOOKUP. I made a simple chart here. For example, let's say you're a huge nerd. I'm sure I'm not far off. Let's say you want to keep track of movies, the year they were released, and ratings from 3 different websites: Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and Metacritic. You can use VLOOKUP to quickly find the data that you're looking for. For example, you can use it to quickly find the Metacritic rating for each movie. Now this is a very simple chart. If you wanted to see the rating, you could just look. But imagine if you had hundreds or thousands of lines of data. Then that's how VLOOKUP becomes nifty gifty. I wanted to quickly show a way that I never use, because maybe it would help you understand the process. First, click where you want to insert the VLOOKUP formula. In our case, it will be J2. So we want the VLOOKUP formula to vertically look up the movie from our data and give us the Metacritic rating. Here's how I don't do this. No particular reason, it's just not how I learned it. You can go up here and click on formulas and then look up and reference. Scroll down to VLOOKUP. So this way might actually be helpful for some of you because it breaks down the whole process. VLOOKUP consists of 4 arguments: the lookup value, the table array, the column index number, and the range. Here's a short description of the VLOOKUP process. And as I click through these boxes, there's a short description of each of them. Let's just quickly try this. For the lookup value, I'm going to choose our first movie here. You can see that I2 shows up in this box, and you can see that it's looking up the value of Monsters, Inc. That's one of my favorite movies, but I digress. The table array is the table of data that you want to look through. You could type it out if you wanted to, but the easier way is to click and drag over the table as so. You can see that we've selected cell A2 through cell E7. You're asking VLOOKUP to look for Monsters, Inc. within this table. Don't worry, I'll get to absolute cell references later. So for the column index number, you want to choose the column number in our table of data, of the data that you're looking for. If this is our table of data, the movie column would be number 1, the year column would be column number 2, Rotten Tomatoes would be 3, and so forth. So in our example, we want to look up the Metacritic rating, which if you count is column number 5. So we enter 5 in this box. For the range, there are only 2 choices: true for an approximate match and false for an exact match. We want an exact match. I'll type in false. Hit OK. So this cell is not in the percentage format, so I'll quickly change that. So we wanted to use VLOOKUP to look up Monsters, Inc. from this table and give us the Metacritic rating. And a quick look back, you can see that it's accurate. Now we want to paste this formula down this column. There are many ways to do this. You can select this cell, move your cursor down to the bottom right corner, and the cursor changes into a cross. We can click and drag this down, and that copies and pastes the formula down the column. You could also select this cell, hit Ctrl+C to copy the cell, and then paste it down the column with Ctrl+V. You could do a quick check to see that the formula works. Now, if this was your first exposure to VLOOKUP, that might be the way you want to do it, because that was actually pretty straightforward. And that's how you first learned it. But I'm going to show you how I do it. I think it's less clicks. Let's try to change it up a bit. Instead of the Metacritic rating, let's do the IMDb rating. You can go directly to this cell and type in equals VLOOKUP. I haven't finished typing and the suggestion pops up. You can finish typing it out or you can hit tab. Excel formulas are very particular with their parentheses and quotation marks. It's easy to get overwhelmed. Don't get overwhelmed. Stay whelmed. So the 4 arguments are listed here. You just want to click and choose. For the lookup value, we'll choose Monsters Inc. You have to make sure you hit comma here. Notice that the only thing separating the lookup value with the table array is the comma. For the table array, we can click and drag over our data. Hit comma. Now because we want the IMDb rating, our column number has changed. Instead of column 5, we want column 4. Then hit comma. Then for the range, we want an exact match, so we can hit false. Then enter. This is still in percentage format, so I'll quickly change it to decimal. Same as before, we can select this cell, go to the bottom right corner, and click and drag to copy and paste the formula down the column. So you can quickly look to see that this is accurate. Let me change our table here so maybe you can understand more easily. So in our graph now, we only have 3 items from this list. Let's say you only want to know these 3 items from this list. The formula still applies and we can find our data that we needed. So a quick note about absolute and relative cell references. If I click on this first cell here and I click inside the formula, we can see that it has the correct table array. But as I move down the list, the table array shifts as well. That's because we're using relative cell references. Depending on the situation, you may want to use relative cell references where they shift. But in this case, we want to use absolute cell references so they don't shift. For example, let's say Monsters Inc. was in this second cell as well. The formula is giving us an NA, and if we look at the formula, the table array shifted down and is unable to find Monsters Inc. There are a few ways to use absolute cell references here. Let me show you the manual way first, just so you can see. The formula in this first cell has a table array of A2 through E7. If you put a $sign before the A, it will lock down column A. If you put a $sign before the 2, it will lock down row 2. The same goes for column E and row 7. Now if we paste the formula down, the table array is locked down, and it'll work even if Monsters Inc. is in the second cell down. Now there is a way easier shortcut for this. When you first put in the VLOOKUP formula, as soon as you're done selecting the table array, hit F4, and that will automatically put the appropriate $signs and lock down the table array. So that was a relatively simple way to use VLOOKUP. Not absolutely simple, relatively simple. That was a joke. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.